Have you ever tried taking photos of fireworks, whether it's 4th of July, New Year's, or any other holiday out there, and try to capture that on a phone or camera? It can be challenging to get that experience into one frame, right? You got all these things going on, so many things in a short amount of time, and try to capture that moment can be tough. But using my approach, which is what I consider time blending, it allows you to get individual moments to create that final look you want for that image so that it's a better representation of that moment rather than just trying to capture it in one shot. So stick with me in this tutorial as we go through the ins and outs of what it takes to get the photos that I do for myself to share with the world. Let's get to it. Hello everybody, my name is Fraser Almeida. I'm a photographer based here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I wanted to share with you some of the things that I do when it comes to capturing these type of firework photos that I love creating and sharing with everybody out there. A couple things I want you guys to consider when you guys are doing this is, number one, think of it like, you go on a vacation and you take a picture of the ocean. Many people, when they do that, they take a picture of the ocean, you get the clouds and the water and whatnot, but there's no context where this is at. There's no context of where it's located, and it's just the scene itself. Same thing with fireworks. You want to put it in the context of where you're at so that it's all relatable. Like in these shots here, as you can see, one of them it's on a lake. You get a little bit of reflections in the water. You see some ducks. So there's a little bit of context as to where I'm at, right? And you get the beautiful firework display in the sky. This other photo here, this is actually 4th of July firework display. And this one was here at Las Vegas at Red Rock Casino. They had a beautiful show here. But as you can see, you have the context of where it's located, what's the scenery, so that way it's all relatable. It's just not a picture of the sky looking at fireworks. And then even here, like 4th of July, right? Like this beautiful shot overlooking the entire valley and seeing the fireworks on top of the beautiful casino. So, like I said, at the end, before you even start, think about where you want to position yourself to capture this experience. That way, when you share these photos with people, it tells a bigger story rather than just looking at pretty colors in the sky. You want to keep it relatable to your environment and your location. So that way, like I said, it tells a bigger story than just the firework display. So let's jump into my approach. We'll talk about techniques and settings and whatnot as to what it takes to get these type of shots, or at least what it takes for me to get these type of shots. And hopefully it helps you guys out there when you're there at your next event, trying to capture this for yourself, to just have a memory to keep for yourself. So first thing I want to talk about when it comes to this is gear. Really, to do this type of photography, you really can't do it on a phone. I guess you could now that phones have a lot of technology built into it where you can do manual settings and whatnot, but I just don't think the sensor on the phones is really going to give you that much leverage to be able to push and pull the image to get a lot of detail out of it. Maybe it is, who knows, maybe by the time newer phones are coming out that they have a better sensor that can actually have a lot more detail. But until then, I think just being safe and going with a camera, a higher end camera, is better. So as far as gear goes, I would say definitely some type of camera, DSLR or mirrorless, doesn't matter, that can shoot raw. You want to make sure you shoot raw so you can retain the most amount of detail. So that way, in case you go over on your exposure or underexposed, you can push and pull those sliders in your editing program to bring back that detail, whether it's in color or luminance. So number one, definitely get yourself a camera. Number two, get yourself a tripod. You need to be fixed on a sturdy tripod so that way nothing is moving. And on top of that, besides the tripod, you want to have it on some type of a head. Personally, I like using a gear head, but you don't have to. You can use a ball head, just something that can hold the camera, that's nice and still and doesn't move or shake when you're taking these photos. You want it to have very still photos to do the whole time blending approach. If you try to take photos and your camera, tripod is very wobbly, it's just gonna make your job so much harder when it comes back to editing these photos back in, Photoshop and Lightroom, all that good stuff. So just invest in yourself, getting yourself a nice set of tripod legs, a ball head or geared head, and then a nice camera that you can capture these photos on. After that, besides that, all you need is some way to trigger your camera. Now, The guerrilla way of doing it is you could do like a 2-second timer, hit the shutter button, let go, and let 2 seconds pass by to let any kind of wobble stop before it takes a photo. But what I found is doing that, you kind of sometimes miss the mark of actually capturing a moment. You know, in 2 seconds, a lot can happen, whether it's an explosion or the firework going up in the sky. So it's better to maybe have a trigger that's either like what I like to use is a cam ranger. It's a wireless trigger that triggers a shutter on the camera to take the photo, or you can do a wired one. You can do a wired remote shutter that you can trigger it and it'll just keep the camera still without having to touch it at all. You just want to avoid that because, like I said, trying to edit these back in Photoshop, you want to avoid any misalignment or things being moving or blurry. You want to have everything as still as possible. So number one, make sure you get those things before you even jump into this. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is actually settings. So on your camera, the go-to method for this is try to keep everything in manual mode. That way you're not moving and fiddling around with things and letting the camera do all the work. You want to keep it in manual mode. And as far as settings go, my go-to is usually ISO 640, and if your camera can go low on aperture, even better, so that way it opens up that iris as big as possible to let in as much light as possible. So if you can go to 2.8, 3.5, whatever it is, do that, because you want to let as much light as possible, because we don't have that much time. And with the ISO, the higher the ISO, the more grain you get. But if you can keep it low, even though 640 is high, but that's still usable images that can make these this process look good. And then other than that, my shutter, that's the thing that's changing a lot. So I'm either doing 1 second or a quarter of a second, or maybe 0.3 of a second, in between there, right? Like there's variables that's happening as the show is going on, because sometimes the fireworks are either really big and you have to adjust your settings, or really small. So you're always like shifting right between the shutter. I'm either between, like I said, a quarter of a second, 1 second, or in between there. Sometimes I just want longer trails, right? I want to see the full trail of the explosion, or maybe the trail of it shooting up from the ground into the sky, that trail, right? So maybe like, you know, a quarter of a second might be too short. Maybe 1 second is long enough to capture that trail, right? So you're gonna have to experiment. This isn't a perfect science. Every time I've ever done one of these kind of fireworks shoots, I'm always adjusting as the show is going on, changing the settings until I'm happy with the way it looks. The more you do that, the better the results, because sometimes, you know, you get these huge explosions and you want to get that beautiful streak in the sky of that motion of how it's opening up and blooming and whatnot. So definitely want to play with that. But as far as for me, like I said, between a quarter and 1 second is where I'm at with ISO 640 and aperture between 2.8 and 3.5. Like I said, it's going to be different depending on your camera system. So just experiment with that. That's kind of my go-to setting. And then from there, you can do little changes on your shutter speed to get the final image looking good in your preview window. So that way you can have those images to take back into the computer to edit one by one and build this image up. So let's jump into Lightroom, and I want to show you guys really quickly how easy it is to get these type of shots once you're ready to go and all dialed in. So here we are in Lightroom, and right now these are the actual images that I've actually picked out from the fireworks show that I got to see. So here, as you can see, we're looking at the different moments here that I'm capturing, you know, just getting different type of the fireworks that were getting lit in the sky. You can see here we get those nice long trails, different explosions, different colors, right? So that's what I'm talking about, getting these individual moments. That way we can build this up into Photoshop and create the image that we want. As you can see, starting off with, I was at ISO 640 and I was at 1/6 of a second. So that's what I started off with. But as you can see, going to the next one here, now I'm at 1/10 of a second. Next one, I'm at 1/8 of a second, right? My variables are always changing depending on what the preview looks like on my camera. Here's 1 second. That 1 second exposure, look how beautiful you get those long streaks in the sky. I love that. This one here, different color pattern, different explosion pattern. Here, this is 0.5 of a second, right? Like sometimes these are fast fireworks and you have to be even faster. So 1 second would be too much. You might overexpose the image. Here's 0.8 of a second, right? And then this last one, 1/4 of a second, right? So like I said, I'm always on the fly adjusting. And as you can see, these are the ones that I picked out. But when I was there, I was shooting a lot of photos. As you can see here, if we look at these thumbnails, just look at how many different photos I got. Not every photo is a killer photo, but by doing this and triggering the camera one by one, you're able to get photos that really look good, that represent that explosion or that color or that unique firework pattern in the sky, right? So we're just on the fly, always trying to be ready to go and making sure that we're constantly taking the photo, looking at the preview. If it's too bright, then we need to dial it so that it's darker, right? So we're just always on the fly. But the only variable that I'm changing is either the shutter, and if I really need to, I might change the ISO if there's like way too much intensity of that light. But once that's all done and I've picked out my favorite images as I have done here, then it's just a matter of going into Photoshop and blending it all together. So let's open this up. So let's take this one by one so you can see exactly what I'm talking about in regards to time blending. So starting with our first layer here, this is what I would consider my base layer. So this is pretty much my starting off base, and everything else I'm gonna build up on top of it, right? So here, all I did in Lightroom was just edit this photo so it looks decent. We have some nice color in the sky. We have the building nicely exposed, the surroundings nicely exposed. I wanted it to be dark. I didn't want it to be too bright. I wanted it to be what it felt like when I was there. So I kept it that same mood. After that, here, what did I do? This one, all I did here was I just photoshopped out this little smoke trail here. I didn't like that. I wanted to keep it a little bit more cleaner. So I just photoshopped that out. But now here's where we get into the actual time blending. So what I do here is, let me take off this layer mask. I'm gonna put the mode to normal. What normal is doing is it's showing you that individual photo, right? But what I want to show you is how do we incorporate this with the layer underneath us. So all we're gonna do is change the blend mode. So we're gonna go from normal to lighten. And what that's saying is any colors that's brighter, any luminance that's brighter, it's gonna show. Anything darker, it's gonna hide. But we want to have a little bit more control than that. I don't want to show everything in the scene. I just want to show the best bits of the image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a layer mask here. By holding Alt, it puts it as black. I'm going to get my brush here, change it to white, and all I'm going to do is paint onto the screen the firework that I want. So if I want, I can incorporate some of this orange, or I'm sorry, this purple here. If that looks good. If that doesn't look good, I could change my brush to black and take that out. Maybe that doesn't look good. Maybe I just want what's there in the sky. So I'm gonna keep that. And we do that for the next one as well. As you can see, here we go. I have the mode here, as you can see, to lighten. We have a layer mask here. If I take it off, you see it's just a little bit here. I'm canceling out any of this foreground here on the bottom. And I'm just only showing the little firework pattern in the sky. Next one here, same thing. Have the layer on lighten mode. And as you can see, same thing. We're just showing just that beautiful firework pattern. If I show you the full image, see here, it's showing there's a whole bunch more smoke in the sky and whatnot. Here, I shifted over the image just to get a little bit more of the composition filled. So as you can see, we can also manipulate the fireworks so that we can move things around where we need to if we want to. So if I need to, this firework, I can kind of move it around, you see, and it stays perfectly within the composition. It blends in nicely, so you don't have to worry about it not being a part of the other images underneath it. And then let's keep going here. Here's those fireworks coming off the building. As you can see, we get that nice streak. probably that was either at least I don't know if it was a minute, but it was close to I'm sorry, not a minute. I don't know if it was a second, but it was close to a second to get that little streak. And next one here, same thing here, another beautiful firework pattern, same thing, lighten mode, and as you can see, we have a little bit of the smoke in the sky, which we're not showing. By using the mask tool, we can just only show that. So if I do it again, take that off, and I put a mask, I'm holding Option or Alt, and click the mask button, grab my brush tool, change it to white. I'm only gonna paint what I want to see. I don't want to show anything else, just that one pattern in the sky. And by having it on lighten, it blends in perfectly with the other layers that's there. So let's keep going here. Next one, here's another beautiful pattern in the sky. And lastly, here's the last one here. And that's pretty much it. It's that simple. You're just picking the best bits of the fireworks that you captured and blending them all together. Like I said, time blending, right? So we're picking the best moments in time and putting it together for one final image. Rather than just relying on one photo, we have a lot to work with, so that way we have a better representation of that experience rather than just that one photo. So let's finish this off. Once that's done, we save this and we go back into Lightroom. And then all I did here was pretty much just level the image out. So using my guided lines here, I just leveled the image out. And then other than that, we did add a couple changes here. So I did drop the shadows down, so it's a little bit darker, because if you see, that's a little bit bright. So by adding it a little bit darker, it gives you a little bit more of that contrast and that pop. It really makes those fireworks stand out. I opened up the whites a little bit, so it really targeted the whites. So like I said, the goal is to have a nice contrast in the sky, so that the firework light actually pops and it looks like it's jumping out at you. So by adding a little bit of white really helps to sell that. And then other than that, I think I just added some blue, so we got a little more texture in the sky. I'm sorry, a little more color in the sky, just to help add some more separation, because there's a whole bunch of colors here, but by adding a little bit of blue, it just, you know, gives you some color instead of just a black sky, right? And that's it, guys. There's really not that much. If there's anything else that I did, I think it was just cropping the image. As you can see, we have some people here on the bottom. I don't really care for that. Same thing here. We have a whole bunch of people standing here looking at the fireworks. I just wanted to just keep it within the firework and the building. I didn't want to really show all the surrounding stuff. So by cropping it, that's it. It makes our job easier. And then other than that, did I do anything else here? I think it was just a little bit of blemish removals, probably some extra little spots or smoke trails that I try to get rid of. But yeah, that's it. Really simple, not that hard. So hopefully next time when you guys are out there at whatever event you're at, you can try to capture your fireworks with this approach. Have your tripod, your camera ready to go, have your trigger ready to go, take those photos with the settings that I gave you, and keep looking at your preview, right? Make sure that if it's too bright, then change your values. If it's too dark, same thing. Change your values until you get something that looks good. And remember, shoot in RAW, so that way, in case you have an image that's too bright or too dark, you can still fix it back in the computer to get it to look exactly the way you want, so you can still have a savable image. And then after that, take it into Photoshop, blend the image together, and then call it a day and share it with the world for everybody to see. So anyway, guys, I hope you guys found that informative. It was fun for me doing these type of photos. Every year, it doesn't matter whether it's, like I said, New Year's, 4th of July, or any other occasion, I have my camera ready to go because I love capturing fireworks. It's just that beautiful moment, that experience. I want to always capture that in camera, and I love the challenge of trying to find the composition. Okay, where am I gonna be at? What's gonna be my frame? Where's my composition gonna be at? How am I gonna incorporate it within the fireworks elements in the sky and whatnot? It's just a fun challenge, and I hope you guys have a fun trying this out for yourself. And let me know, where do you guys like to go watch your fireworks at? Where do you guys plan next time to go see either 4th of July or New Year's? You know, share it in the comments. I'd love to see where you guys are planning your next trip, or in your own city, or are you gonna travel to get some firework shots? I would love to go to Japan or China, because they got some amazing shows out there. I would love to do my approach out there with time blending so that we can capture a really cool photo. That's definitely going to be a bucket list item for me. So hopefully I can do that pretty soon. Well, guys, I hope you guys liked this video, but until next time, I'll see you then.